brush.
They don't have magic markers that just show up different colors.
Yeah.
This is way back.
Okay, I'm showing my age. And you put a little water on this dot, and you get a whole bunch of color out of it. And you put water on this dot, you get a whole bunch of color out of it. Same thing. So each dot is going to grow a whole bunch of color. It ruins my diagram when you do things like that.
I know what you meant.
This is how I'm explaining this, and everyone's supposed to know it. Okay, anyways. So it's going to fill up, all these little spots are going to start to make bone until the whole area is filled with bone.
And there's another next to it.
Another one's next to it, and all around, they're all going to end up fusing together. What's the best example of that?
Oh, and
The skull. Exactly. You have, if you turn to page 418, the fetal skull, you can see that the occipital, the parietal, the temporal, the frontal, all those bones started out separated.
that's how they essentially just close in eventually.
Exactly. They start ossifying in the joints, and they end up making what we call sutures. So they get connected together through these sutures. Okay? And that's how the human, or the adult head is now. Those two bones are fused together.
They just kind of overlap when they grow.
They kind of overlap when they grow. When they do so, they kind of push in each other, and they end up getting those suture lines to where it's.
So would each of those be osteocytes that are growing?
Not the osteocytes. These are ossification of cartilage. So cartilage is turning into bone. When it lays down the bone, it's going to have osteocytes in it. It's going to have canaliculi in it. It's going to have some type of blood vessel flow to it. Okay, if you look on 393, you see that number 4 down there at the very bottom? Mm-hmm. It shows the bungee versus the compacts. In 3, you can see the blood vessels coming in and feeding the calcium and the phosphate and the collagen to it so they can form the extracellular matrix. Okay. Then once it's done, it's going to have those same things in it just to feed the bone. Okay, you're just not going to have an osteone in it as prevalent as you would. Actually, you will have it in the compact bone. I take that back. You will have osteons in the haversian canals, in the perforating canals. Okay, it's just going to be in the flat bone versus in the length of the long bone. So the main difference between intramembraneous and endochondrial is what? The amount of ossification centers. Okay, that's how you're going to get the different shapes. Either a long bone that continues to grow, because a baby's arm, is that the length of the human arm? No. Is the human skull the same length or size of an adult skull? No. So even the model is going to grow both on the long bones and on the flat bones. So that hyaline cartilage is going to grow. What's one unique thing about long bones and hyaline cartilage that does not happen in flat bones? What happens to the very end of long bones?
Oh, it stays at articular.
It stays hyaline cartilage to be a articulating faucet. Very good. Okay. Does the skull have any articulating faucets? The occipital bone has 2. Right down there where it connects to the C1. Okay. But other than that, the bone, well, actually in your jaw, I guess you'd have some too with the jaw, the TMJ. We'll talk about that a little bit. But for the most part, the main bones in your skull don't articulate. So there's all the hyaline cartilage is gone because it doesn't need that articulating surface. Okay. So we're gonna build bones, and we're gonna break down bones. We call that osteoclast, osteoblast, but the whole thing is called what? Remodeling, exactly, very good. Remodeling. So, do you have the same bones as when you were 5 years old?
Nope. Got all new bones every 10 years.
All new bones, okay? That's because we're constantly chewing up and remaking what? Not the osteocytes,
And then extracellular.
the extracellular matrix.
Is this structure kind of created that way to benefit ease of breaking it down?
Yeah, we'll show you how it's.
Giant thing, it would be hard to work if they lay in layers. And
Exactly, that's exactly, and I'll show you here in just a second how we make this osteon.
Just really quick, are we gonna have to know, like, the steps on the formations?
Yes. The main thing that you're going to need to know is the ossification centers. How many does the intermembranous have? How many does the endochondrial step? So if you can walk through how the endochondrial bone is formed versus how the intermembranous bone is formed, you won't miss any questions. Okay. What did we say was on the outside of bone? Periosteum. Does that have blood vessels? Periosteum has a lot. It's very innervated, which means a lot of nerves, as well as a lot of vessels. It's highly vasculated and highly innervated. The reason, who here has had shin splints? How do you fix them? Don't use them. And rice, right? Relax, ice, compress, and elevate. Okay. What happens is you have at the bottom, I think I told you about this, didn't I? At the very bottom of your shin and where your foot meet, you have a little muscle that has a tendon that attaches to the osteon. When you use that too much, or some people have a little weak, it actually pulls the osteon off the bone, periosteum off the bone. And that's where you get all the pain in the shin splint. Okay. What do you have to do? You just have to tape it, try and get it back onto the bone until it will reconnect. Okay, that's what a shin splint is. It's an emulsion.
So, I chipped a bone off my ankle when I was playing soccer, so then that one grows back, right?
Bone grows back, yeah.
And then, so if you pull the ligaments and stuff, they just have to reconnect it.
And- Right.
back to the bone growth, do we need to know that, like, the one does more appositional as opposed to linear growth? Because there's a two kind of growth, is one more prevalent than the other one?
Well, your linear growth is going to be in where?
Long.
Long bones, endochondrial growth. So your endochondrial is mainly your long bone, where you get the lineal growth. Intermembranous is,
So the intermembranous does occur in the,
no. Your intermembranous is going to be in your flat bones. Sternum, skull, ribs, scapula, clavicle.
so
Things
the
that,
long bones get thicker.
and we're going to talk about how that happens. It's not through intermembranous, it's through remodeling. Okay. There's no, once your bones are done growing, once you've got your adult human body, there's no more ossification centers. Those go away. Okay. And you just feed the existing osteocytes, whether they're there, to maintain the bone, unless you're remodeling and then you break down the extracellular matrix and then you build it back up.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Now with stress, there's a little bit of good stress that will actually thicken bones. Okay, if you work out, or if you bale hay or move pipe, okay, your bones are going to get a little bit thicker to help compensate for the stress that you're putting on it. Okay, and that's the same kind of way in which bone remodeling occurs. Okay, so what happens is you've got a blood vessel right here. in your periosteum. What happens, what do we call on the macrophage when they have those false feet come out and go around the microbe? What's the scientific word for false? Pseudo. And feet is pod. Pseudopods, remember? Talk about those pseudopods. Well, these extracellular lamellae, or circumferential lamellae, kind of work that same way. What happens is they start growing out and around the blood vessel until they completely engross the entire blood vessel and the lymph vessels, okay?
Does it push the periosteum out or just kind of
Yeah,
incorporate that?
it'll actually, the periosteum will be pushed out. It'll cover, and then another vein will come in here, or artery will come in and replace what gets used up. It'll build more as it goes out.
And just keep drilling until it creates a osteoma?
Well, what happens is, it's gonna come way out and you're gonna have a lot of space here. So the blood vessel, this is your other, comes out and envelops the whole thing. And then what it'll do is it'll make concentric lamellae until it's completely surrounded that blood vessel. And that'll happen here and here and here. Now, how big are these things?
Probably not real big. is it?
Microscopic. Okay, so you can get 50 layers of these coming out, and can you see a noticeable difference in the bone thickness? Not really. Is it thicker? Yes. Is it stronger? Yes. But unless you have a trained eye and you can actually see a before and after picture, you wouldn't even notice the difference of the thickness of a bone. Okay? Unless it's really thin because of osteoporosis or really thick because it's young age. Okay? But that's how the widening of the bone, or the widening of the bone gets thicker.
I'm just looking at the picture on page 399, but it looks like it engulfs the periosteum, comes to endosteum, and then disappears.
Yeah.
So it does kind of engulf the
Well,
periosteum.
when it engulfs the endosteum or the periosteum, the two parts that don't get then fuse, and that periosteum ends up being part of the Haversian canal. That's not really anything you need to worry about. As far as you're concerned, it just envelops the blood vessel, wraps it around in concentric lamellae, and then that's a new osteome. And then another one will make, and the holes will be filled in by what type of lamellae? Interstitial lamellae. Okay, so you get all of these osteomes being made around the bones. Okay, and that's how the bone actually thickens a little bit due to good stress.
Is that what that, like those shots that the old people get because they have osteoporosis?
They're most likely calcium shots. Actually, I don't know what shots are those?
Oh, they just get, I don't know what it's called. I can't think of it now.
I'm not
They
sure
just-
what.
Like some hormone, probably.
It probably is what type of, if you have excess calcium in your blood, which hormone do you need to put the calcium into the extracellular matrix?
Yeah,
Demetrius.
too much.
If you have too much calcium in the blood, what are the two types of hormones? One breaks down and one builds.
Thyroid and parathyroid.
Parathyroid hormone and calcitonin. Which one builds bone? Calcitonin. Okay, so if you have excess calcium in your blood, which hormone is going to be secreted? Calcitonin. Okay, they might be giving them calcitonin shots if they have a faulty. Where does the calcitonin come from? The thyroid. So if they're having a faulty thyroid or a hypothyroidism, they might be getting injections of calcitonin along with calcium pills to help rebuild the extracellular matrix.
If your thyroid just eventually kind of stop producing that calcitonin, and then that kind of why it.
Well, women mostly get it because it's a lack of estrogen, which is a precursor to vitamin D, vitamin A.